Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the arrival of the President of the Republic of South Africa, His Excellency Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, the Commander-in-Chief of the South African National Defence Force. Ladies and gentlemen, you may be seated. Brigadier General M.A. Jamangile, the Chaplain General of the South African National Defence Force, is requested to lead us in scripture reading and prayer.
We respect all expressions of faith on this parade. We read the Holy Book as follows. Where did it fall? Elisha asked. The man showed him the place, and Elisha cut off a stick, threw it in the water, and made the iron float. Take it out, he ordered, and the man bent down and picked it up. We pause to what has brought us to this point. We remember and pay tribute to the warriors of SS Mendi. Their bravery and sacrifice. No words can express the pain and suffering. No words can turn back the clock of time. But by the grace of God, today we witness the bell which lay muted for more than 100 years in cold waters. This bell peals forth in clear tones that we are not done, we will never be done. This bell bear testimony that greater love has no one than this, that they paid the supreme price. This bell today has become a living reminder that we have no right to forget what God remembers. As the Commander-in-Chief is about to take the salute, I now commend this gracious parade unto the hands of God Almighty. Let us pray. We bow down in humility with thanksgiving, Heavenly Father, that today we remember those who paid the supreme price for our beloved country and her peoples. And now I commend this parade unto your throne of mercy. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, the mass fly past will now commence.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to commence with the showcasing of the air capabilities from the South African Air Force. Starting off with the helicopter formation. The helicopter formation will consist of one Super Lynx helicopter, which is flown by Major Lele Tumdunyelwa, two A19 helicopters flown by Major Wakaba and Major Matlapeng, two Oryx helicopters, which are flown by Major Hatting, Major Riddler. To complete the formation, we have two Roy Falk helicopters, which are flown by Major Kempton and Major Dupree. In the lead, we've got the Lynx helicopter, which is operated by the South African Air Force in conjunction with the South African Navy, and is operated on the frigates. It is used to provide search capabilities in anti-surface warfare roles, early warning, search and rescues, and maritime patrols. The A19 and the Oryx helicopters, we use them for various roles, including trooping, reconnaissance, search and rescue, firefighting, and VIP flights. The Roy Falk helicopter, it's an attack helicopter, which we use for ground suppression, anti-helicopter, anti-armor, close air support, and counterinsurgency. These helicopters are based on the Roy Falk helicopter. Is a proudly South African product, which is manufactured by Denel Aviation.
Approaching now the transport aircraft that are currently in service within the South African Air Force. In the lead is the Kaza 212, utilized by 44 Squadron, first formed on the 12th of March 1944. The officer commanding is Lieutenant Colonel Sammy Madidikama, and the aircraft is commanded by Major Nicholas Green. Their motto, Proximus, we are useful. The Kaza 212 is a light-medium military transport aircraft and is used for VIP transport, paratroop drop, freight, and casevac. It is also utilized for logistic air support to African countries. The two aircraft left and right are the King Air 200s from 41 Squadron. The squadron was transferred back to the South African Air Force from the Army in May 1973. The current officer commanding is Lieutenant Colonel Rami Mabulabula, and the aircrafts are commanded by Lieutenant Colonel Mabulabula and Major Ranzu Mashlangu. The King Air has been in operation since the 1st of May 1981. Their motto, Detectissimus Hostes, translated, we detect the enemy. Slower. Behind the three-ship formation, the mighty C-130 Hercules, accompanied by the Silver Falcons. The C-130 operated by 28 Squadron, first formed on the 1st of June 1943. The current officer commanding is Colonel Gerry Engelbrecht. The aircraft is commanded by Lieutenant Colonel Clint Hawtrey. 28th Squadron's motto, Portimus, meaning we carry. The purchased in 1963 from the United States of America, boasting 4 engines and rated at 4,900 shaft horsepower.
The 5 PC-7 Mark IIs in the blue paint scheme are those flown by the Silver Falcons, the official display team of the South African Air Force. The aim of the team is to represent the Air Force, inspire the youth, promote aviation, and showcase the skill of the pilots to the general public. Team 82, led by Major O.G. Mutluwane. Following the Silver Falcons, the next formation you will see is a 6-ship PC-7 Mark II formation operated by Central Flying School Langebaan. The unit is commanded by Colonel Donovan Chetty, and the formation is led by Lieutenant Colonel Gareth Gooley. The next formation is a formation of Hawk Mark 120s operated by 85 Combat Flying School under the command of Lieutenant Colonel Craig Leeson, call sign Shark. The formation is led by Major Geoffrey Cooper, call sign Spartan. The Hawk is a transonic lead-in fighter trainer encompassing ideal handling characteristics for fighter pilot training. The aircraft can train aspirant fighter pilots in all aspects of modern fighter flying. In the case of the Hawk Mark 120, the cockpit has been specifically tailored to seamlessly and cost-effectively train pilots graduating from the PC-7 Mark II basic trainer to the SAF Gripen frontline fighter. Ladies and gentlemen, if you look to your left, you will now see a formation of Gripens, the frontline fighter of the South African Air Force, operated by 2 Squadron from Air Force Base Mikado under the command of Lieutenant Colonel Josias Mashaba, call sign Burgul. The formation is being led by Lieutenant Colonel Yaku Labiskachny, call sign Weasel. The Jazz 39 Gripen is a multi-role fighter aircraft where the C version is a single-seater and the D version is a tandem dual-seater. Both versions are designed for a quick and simple change. Both versions are designed for a quick and simple roll change, hence the term swing roll. Based at Air Force Base Langebaan on the South African West Coast, the Silver Falcons are full-time ab initio flying instructors. In most military aerobatic teams, display flying and ground crew duties are coupled to a full-time posting at a dedicated squadron. The Silver Falcons, however, is a part-time team. Pilots and ground crew all perform display duties as an over and above task to their primary posting. Ladies and gentlemen, if you look ahead of you, you should see the approaching Silver Falcons. Team 82, led by Major O.G. Mutluwane, call sign Biggie. On his right wing, Major Tian Stander, call sign XL. On his left wing, in the number 3 position, Major Corne van Deventer, call sign Stilbo. Number 4, the slot pilot, Major Beki Shabangu, call sign Swazboy. And number 5, the soloist, Major Sivu Tangana, call sign Sivuplay. Falcon 1 to 5 make up the flying members of the team. Falcon 6 is the ground liaison and safety officer, and Falcon 7 is the public relations officer. Ladies and gentlemen, the Silver Falcons. Two Squadron was founded on the 1st of October 1940 as one of many fighter squadrons of the South African Air Force. The squadron has a rich history and actively participated in both World War II and the Korean War in the 1950s. The Gripen is a single-engine delta-wing aircraft with moving canards, main wing leading-edge flaps, and 2 trailing-edge control surfaces on each wing, plus a conventional fin and rudder. It is designed for a maximum load factor of 9G and has a fly-by-wire flight control system. This Swedish-built 4th-generation fighter was delivered to 2 Squadron in 2008. Ladies and gentlemen, if you look ahead of you now, you will see the Gripens.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the mass flypast. The handing over of the bell will now commence. SS Mendi history. Before dawn on 21 February 1917, the SS Mendi was accidentally struck by the SS Daro while crossing the English Channel for service in World War I, resulting in the death of 618 men of the 5th Battalion South African Native Contingent, 9 officers and non-commissioned officers, and 33 crew members. Among the dead were 87 black soldiers from KwaZulu-Natal. Survivors recorded that the men met their fate with great dignity. They know no grave but the sea. The President of the Republic of South Africa, His Excellency, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, is requested to hand over the bell to the Chief of the South African National Defence Force.
I, Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa, the President of the Republic of South Africa and the Commander-in-Chief of the South African National Defence Force, hereby officially hand over the SS Mendi Bell to General Soli Shoke, the Chief of the South African National Defence Force, for safekeeping.
I accept, Mr. President.
The Chief of the South African National Defence Force is requested to hand over the bell to the Chief of the South African Navy.
I, General Soli Zakaria Shoke, Chief of the South African National Defence Force, hereby delegate the safekeeping of the SS Mendi Bell on behalf of the South African National Defence Force to Rear Admiral, Vice Admiral Hlongwane for safekeeping.
I, Vice Admiral Msiwa Hlongwane, Chief of the South African Navy, accept the responsibility for the safekeeping of the SS Mendes Bell and will ensure the safe custody of the bell on behalf of the South African National Defence Force.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the handing over of the bell. The President of the Republic of South Africa is requested to address the parade.
Minister of Defense and Military Veterans, Ms. Nosiviwe Mapisa Ngakula, Ministers and Deputy Ministers here present, Ministers and Deputy Ministers from our SADC region, Defense Attachés stationed in South Africa, Members of Parliament, Portfolio Committee and Defense and Military Veterans, Premier of the Western Cape, Secretary of Defense, Dr. Sam Makudu Gulube, Chief of the South African National Defence Force, General Soli Shoke, Chiefs of Defence Forces from the region, generals, admirals, officers, warrant officers, non-commissioned officers, military veterans, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. As the Commander-in-Chief of the South African National Defence Force, it is a great honor to address you on this National Armed Forces Day. It is a day on which we acknowledge the men and the women who have dedicated their lives to the service of their country and humanity. You have answered the most noble calling to defend the Republic and its people, to protect her sovereignty and guard her territorial integrity. You have sworn to serve South Africa and its people in accordance with the Constitution of our country and to uphold its values. The 21st of February holds deep significance for us as South Africans. It marks the day of the sinking of the troop carrier vessel, the SS Mendes. On that fateful day in 1917, 805 souls perished in the English Channel on their way to the Western Front during the First World War. The soldiers aboard the SS Mendes were volunteers in the then South African National Labour Corps. They were among 25,000 others who joined the corps during a war that began in Europe but soon became a global conflict affecting people on nearly every continent. The men who died on the SS Mendes and others of the Native Labour Corps who served in the trenches in France did not enlist to further the advance of imperialism. They volunteered at a time when the 1913 Land Act had cut a devastating swath across black communities in this country, and they hoped that with their service to get a chance to provide for their families. They also saw it as a chance to play their part in defense of the freedom and preservation of humankind. They are our heroes, and it is our duty to impart on our children the story of their bravery, their courage, their commitment, and their long suffering. I wish to congratulate the Ministry of Defense for ensuring that this important part of our history is kept alive. And I wish to acknowledge the survivors and their descendants, some of whom are here with us today. Earlier this morning, we went to a site near the University of the Western Cape, a site which depicts a memorial of those who perished in the English Channel, in the SS Mendi. It is a small memorial site, and when I looked at it, I thought that it does not correctly depict the enormity of the tragedy. I thought that it does not fully tell the story of the men who perished in the English Channel. I will be discussing this matter with the Minister of Defense and Military Veterans, and indeed with the Chief of the South African National Defence Force, that we should do a better representation of this memorial so that we can put the history of the men who perished in the English Channel in the minds of our people more firmly, because they are indeed the heroes of our nation, and they need to have a proper place in the memories of our country. Today, we wish to extend our condolences to the family, friends, and the unit of Corporal Randall Jacques Crano. He lost his life on Wednesday, the 6th of February, while he was traveling to be part of preparations for today's event. I also wish his injured colleagues a speedy recovery. Ons gedenk vandag alle gevalle soldate wat in opdrag en belang van ons land gesterf het. It does not matter how or where they fell, they paid the ultimate price. Ons sal hulle opoffering van altyd onthou and vereer. We are joined here today by Mr. Jenny Fournier, the mayor of the town of Longueval in France. Longueval is where our National War Memorial, commonly known as Deville Wood, is situated. To you and your delegation, sir, I want to say, Benvenue, wamkelekile, welcome. We welcome you with open arms to our country and to Cape Town. I did have an occasion to visit Deville and saw for myself how well you are keeping the memory of those who fell in that war. We salute you, sir. On National Armed Forces Day, we honor our veterans and those who are still in uniform. We also honor their families, for the sacrifice of serving in uniform is also the sacrifice of a family and of a community. You have given us the best of your men and women who left you in the bloom and enthusiasm of youth and who returned wiser, disciplined, and stronger. It is said that it is only in the service to one's fellow human that one's mettle is truly tested, and the armed forces of democratic South Africa can be justifiably proud of having produced soldiers of resolve, soldiers of steadfastness, and soldiers whose hearts beat with a great deal of patriotism. Through National Armed Forces Day, we want to display to our people, the citizens of our country, the capabilities and state of readiness of our armed forces. We also want to expand the public's understanding of the military's function and purpose in our society. The roles that the military plays in our modern days is quite diverse and plentiful. We all recall the iconic image of a young mother clutching her newborn baby, Rosita, as she was pulled to the safety of an SANDF chopper during the Mozambican floods of the year 2000. That picture reverberated across the world, and people across the world saw the enormous capability of the SANDF, and that picture remains imprinted on the minds of many Mozambicans who saw the extent to which their neighbor, South Africa, is able to come to their aid when they are in need. We also recall with pride the deployment of the South African Military Health Service across a number of hospitals in Gauteng in 2017, after industrial action nearly paralyzed health services in the province. A year later, military health personnel were dispatched to Mahikeng Hospital in the northwest, where their intervention averted the near collapse of health services in the facility in the northwest part of our country. A sewage spillage that is threatening the health and well-being of millions of our people who live in the Vaal River complex. We also saw how members of the South African National Defence Force went to the northwest and went to Ditsobotla and helped the municipal government in that part of our country to sort out the sewage that had spilled in the streets of Ditsobotla. Our people in Ditsobotla were filled with joy and jubilation as they saw our soldiers doing social work for them and helping to resolve a problem which seemed intractable. The South African National Defence Force has also been involved in international peacekeeping missions on our continent, notably in the Democratic Republic of the Congo under the UN Stabilization Mission. We currently have around 1,200 troops in the DRC and are also part of the Force Intervention Brigade together with Tanzania and Malawian troops. We continue to support operations in Africa under the United Nations and the African Union. Whether it is engaging in anti-piracy patrols in the Mozambican Channel, battling veld fires in the Cape, doing border controls as part of Operation Corona, or attending to critical infrastructure, our National Defense Force is indeed a source of enduring pride to our nation. It is a pride we want to impart to the next generation. For the South African National Defense Force to effectively carry out its mission, we need to recruit high-caliber individuals into its ranks. The armed forces are a home for the youth of this country. Young men and young women can find a home in the South African National Defense Force. It is in this home where they can exhibit their patriotism, their pride as South African citizens. It is the means through which they can serve, through which they can also step forward and say, yes, Commander-in-Chief, tuma mina, send me, let me go and be of service to other South Africans who are in need, and to my country which needs my services. In 2018, 1,700 young people were recruited through the Military Skills Development Program and successfully placed in the Army, in the Navy, in the Air Force, and in medical health services. They commenced training in January at their respective training units, and we wish them well in their endeavors to practice their patriotism. Ladies and gentlemen, the role of the armed forces has over the years had to evolve in response to ever-changing global military, political, social, and economic conditions. Our Navy, the host of today's event, has a particularly critical role to play. As South Africa, we have a 3,000-long coastline which wraps our country from the east to the west, the third largest in Africa, and are strategically located on one of the world's most vital shipping lines. Over 96% of our own exports and imports are carried by sea. South Africa's exclusive economic zone is currently the extent of 1.5 million square kilometers. With such a large ocean jurisdiction, the need for effective maritime protection by our Navy has never been greater. This has become all the more important since South Africa, together with other nations, adopted the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals in 2015. Goal 14 of these UN goals obliges countries to take measures to conserve and sustainably use the oceans, the seas, and maritime resources. The South African Navy is and will remain key to supporting our national maritime security strategy and advancing our vision to grow our oceans economy. Like many other coastal countries, we are impacted by the illegal exploitation of our marine resources, which seriously threatens the sustainability of our oceans. It is upon our Navy that we rely to protect our trade routes, to cooperate with neighboring countries and international bodies to promote regional maritime security and to advance our developmental objectives as a country. We are also aware of the impact of climate change on our oceans. Coastal communities in particular are vulnerable to the effects of rising sea levels. The resulting extreme weather will require the South African National Defence Force to provide humanitarian assistance and disaster relief during general military assistance operations, both in the country and in the SADC region. It is also the responsibility of our armed forces to guard our country's borders against the infiltration of transnational criminal syndicates, the flow of contraband, human trafficking, undocumented migrants, and other illicit activities. It is imperative, therefore, that all our armed forces are supported to enable them to respond effectively to current realities and threats, as well as emerging ones. Ladies and gentlemen, as South Africans, we are secure in the knowledge that our combined forces are well-trained, they are capable, and above all, that they uphold the Constitution and the highest values that are enshrined in the Bill of Rights of our Constitution. Our armed forces are the great unifier. They are part of what makes us to be proud South Africans. As Commander-in-Chief, I say to our men and women in uniform, we value your contribution. We applaud your professionalism, your discipline, as well as your dedication. The path you have chosen is not an easy one, nor has it been easy for your families and your loved ones. And yet we know that with your service, you join a long and illustrious line of those who have come before you, the brave and courageous men and women who have seen it right to serve their country and dedicate their energies in the service of their beautiful country, South Africa, and the people who live in it. Of the brave fallen who lie in Delville Wood and the men of the SS Mendi. They set sail to Europe's distant shores in the defense of freedom and in the hope of bringing freedom back home to their beautiful land, South Africa. They did not live to hear the ring of freedom's bell. The dignity they were denied in their lifetime is the dignity we accord them here today. It is the dignity our people enjoy today, especially the men and women of our armed forces. In recognizing you, we are recognizing them, our heroes who have fallen. It is of you that the great Homer speaks in the Iliad and says, open quotes, without a sign his sword the brave man draws, and asks no omen but his country's cause, close quotes. To our soldiers, yours is a clear mission to take the SANDF into a brave and great future, to uphold our constitutional order and the rule of law, to defend and to protect our sovereignty and our territorial integrity, and above all, to contribute towards the well-being, the prosperity, and the upliftment of the people of our beautiful country, South Africa. I wish you strength and I wish you courage, and we thank you for your service and your dedication. Thank you very much.
The handing over of the South African National Defence Force flag will now commence. Please take note that during the flag ceremony, there will be a general salute, including a 17-round gun salute. All spectators are to remain seated. Only the parade will acknowledge the salute.
Bigger, so you're getting a lot more drag. Are you getting a return? Stuart, are you getting a return? We're getting nothing in return. But I got the doubler in.
Well, the President just finished his address a short while ago.
Upon the commemoration
where
of the
he's
establishment of the
emphasized,
South African
around
National
the
Defence
importance
Force.
of celebrating
South African
and
National
commemorating
Defence Force
the
flag is handed
victims
from the Chief
and the fallen
of the South
heroes
African
that
Navy to the
perished
Chief of the
during
South
that
African Army.
1976
On this
incident
21st day of
when the
February
SS Mandy went
2019.
down in the English
Whereas
Channel.
the Chief
Of
of
course,
the South
he's
African
also
Army
made the
will
call
have the
that
flag and
the
safety
current
for a
crop
period
of
1
soldiers
year.
and members
Under
of the
services
armed security
as a
forces
symbol of
must
unity,
continue
determination,
in that
and
fight
strength
of
the
ensuring
South
that
African National Defence
the
Force.
soldiers uphold
The
the
title
sovereignty
Keeper
of the
flag
country,
is bestowed
maintain
upon
the
him.
rule of law, as
In this
well as
capacity,
protecting the
you are hereby
Constitution. Of
charged
course,
to
it's
ensure
also
that
gone
the South
to
African
great
National
lengths
Defence Force
around
flag
the
is
successes that they have
unfurled
actually
and displayed in the
done over
appropriate
the past
manner
couple
at
of
the
years,
South African Army
including
headquarters.
their deployment to Gauteng
flag,
during the
being a
strikes,
symbol of
where
unity,
the health military
determination, and
services
strength
actually
of the South
assisted
African
in
National
the
Defence
assistance in
Force,
hospitals,
which was
as well
displayed
as
at all
also the
times.
deployment of these
During the
health
next
military
commemoration
services
of
in the northwest during the strike. So the President really going at great lengths to actually commend the work of the armed security forces.
The handing over of the scroll will now commence.
Well, as you've just seen, we've just come out at that end of that ceremonial process where the South African flag was being handed over to the South African Navy for safekeeping. Of course, earlier, the bell, SS Mendi bell that went down in the English Channel in 1917 was actually returned to South Africa after its discovery in 2017. The ceremonial handover from the British government to South Africa was last year in August. Today, it was the official time where it's now being handed over to the armed security forces for safekeeping. As you can see on your screen right now, several bands from the South African Navy, from the South African National Defence Force, as well as some members of column squads are now marching past the main podium where President Cyril Ramaphosa, the Commander-in-Chief of the South African National Defence Force, is seated. And now, obviously, the proceedings of the ceremonial guard are coming to an end as we observe them walking down past the main stand.
Ladies and gentlemen, the marching columns and mechanized columns from the services and divisions of the South African National Defence Force will now commence.
So what stood out about what the president said earlier during his speech? Yes, while this event today was largely an opportunity for the SANDF to boast about its capabilities and what it is able to do should South Africa ever need it to jump in to go to war, what stood out was that what the president said was that just 4 years after the 1913 Land Act became legislation, these South Africans still decided in 1917 to join the Native Corps to defend their country against imperialism and tyranny. And what the president said was that earlier on when he visited the memorial site near to the University of the Western Cape, he was rather disappointed by the size of this memorial. He says that these men deserve so much more to be remembered and to be commemorated and to be part of South Africa's history, because it's only been in recent years that we've really been speaking about the role that they played, that the Native Corps played during World War I. So the president is going to be speaking with the defense minister about that, looking for another way to commemorate these men who of course perished on the Mendi in 1917 rather. So what we have happening right now, it's various ceremonial parades. We have the bands, we have the various flag carriers standing at salute. This of course is not part of the civilians don't play a role in this part of the parade. but it's only all SANDF staff members, staffers, who will know exactly what this means and exactly what it entails and what their role is in it. That's what's happening right now. I'm hearing bands coming along. I can't see them, but I definitely hear them. And I suppose they are coming from further down the road, which is where members of the public are stationed. Further down the road, we don't really have any members of the public right here with us. It's all military staff and of course the president, and the only members of public who are here are those who live in the flats in the area, and they are standing on the top of the roofs taking photos. They are out on their balconies. This is how they are accessing the festivities or the program. But the bands and the various marches, they have been walking past members of the public earlier on. So that is what is happening at the moment. I'm going to be speaking with a member of the SANDF right now. I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself, please, sir.
I'm Lieutenant Colonel Hamilton Ngubane, working in the SANDF Media Liaison.
Thank you so much for speaking with us, sir. Tell me, what exactly is happening with the rest of the program? I believe, are we still going to be having maneuvers down on the beach? Is that still happening?
Absolutely, but now we're starting with the marching columns. That is men on foot marching, passing every arm of services, the Army, the SA Air Force, the SA Navy, and military health services. After that, we are going to have the mechanized column in the same format. Then later on, in the vicinity of about 1:30, we are going to have the capability demonstration like we narrated earlier on.
So that's obviously the more exciting part of today's program.
It is one item which a member of the public may not miss. Yes, that is just what we want to show the people of Cape Town as well as the world, to give them an assurance that the SANDF is there for everyone. It is the defense force for the people.
Lieutenant, also, I don't really see any members of the public over here. So these maneuvers, will they be happening further down the beach where members can actually, where the public can actually watch it?
Yes, it is on the perimeters of this parade area. The members of the public are having access, and we're having big screens as well that are supporting the public to view the proceedings.
And can you tell us what kind of reception has the SANDF had over the last few days? I know in my area alone, which is out in Muizenberg, the roads were blocked because so many members of the public were making their way down to the beach. What kind of reception have you as the SANDF had from the public?
It was wonderful. Those who were in Khayelitsha will attest to what I'm saying. We received a full capacity on the state at Nelson Mandela Park Stadium. It was full capacity for all 4 days that we were in there. It was full capacity. So the reception that we received in Cape Town, it was wonderful. Maybe there was a misunderstanding from the beginning, because I went to Muizenberg as well. There was a misunderstanding, but once we were on the ground, there was a warm reception from the public. We love it.
Yes, I know it was on day 2, once people realized what was happening, that they really got excited, because Boys Drive, all those areas were completely blocked because there were throngs of people going down there.
Yes, especially on day 2. On day 1, you will realize that it was still the final dress rehearsal. So it was not the actual event. That is why some roads were closed and the public was not informed. But once the public was informed, we got a full and a warm reception.
Just one thing quickly, what was quite interesting in the run-up to this week's program, I got some emails from media organizations, from political parties, who were expressing their concern about the impact it would have on the environment. Were any assessments done beforehand? Were there any other complaints?
Yes, absolutely. There was a proper assessment done beforehand. And after that, we sent our environmental officers to go and liaise with the municipality as well as the members from the ward council, so that we can assure the public that we did not cause any damage to the environment.
Lieutenant, thank you so much for speaking to us, and we're going to be linking back to the studio. Thanks so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, approaching from southeast, in other words from your left, are the mechanized columns displaying the different capabilities of the South African National Defence Force.
The military police cavalcade for Armed Forces Day. The duties of the military police are to provide maneuver and mobility support during real-time policing, exercises, and operations. These duties also include law and order operation, handling of prisoners of war, which includes managing the military confinement, police intelligence, and area security. In this country, you'll find two groups of people, those who are in the military police and those who want to be with the military police. Approaching are the functional motorbikes. The functional motorbikes are used mostly by military police area offices to escort military convoys for crime prevention, conduct VIP escorts, and traffic control. Behind them are operational motorcycles. They are used during operations and exercises to patrol the main supply routes, escort of VIPs, traffic control, crime prevention, and escort of military convoys. Behind them are sedan vehicles, which are used for functional military duties. The vehicles are deployed mainly at the military police area offices and are used in investigation and crime prevention, escorting of suspects to court, escort of military convoys, and traffic control. Then the military police vans. These are military police daily functional vehicles. They are deployed at the military police client services centers to transport inmates and arrested personnel, escort of convoys, attend complaints and mobile patrols in the rural and urban areas. The SUVs behind them, they are the borderline cruiser pickup, and they are used to support the deployed forces for borderline operations, and they are primarily utilized as command vehicles. Then the lone cruiser pickup are used in the borderlines to transport of inmates and undocumented personnel to safe custody for the functional vehicles where they cannot operate. Then the Land Rovers, they are utilized during operations and exercises as the command vehicles. These vehicles are also deployed to be utilized by the investigators during coast support, and they are utilized to carry equipment for bridge crossing exercises. The Mamba vehicles are military police combat vehicles, and they carry provost section for provost operations and exercises. During provost operation and exercise, the Mamba vehicle provides maneuver and mobility support. And during operations and exercises, these vehicles are deployed at the traffic control post. The vehicles are mounted with 12.7 light machine gun. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the military police.
Ladies and gentlemen, approaching behind military police is the SA Army capability. The sequence is as follows: mechanized infantry, air defense artillery, South African armor, South African Army artillery, and South African Army engineers. Approaching is an infantry mechanized battalion consisting of Rattle marked 0 Bravo is Rattle 12.7 millimeter. It is used by a commander in a mechanized battalion. Main armament is 12.7 Browning machine gun with the effective range of 1,800 meters. Behind the commander's Rattle is Rattle 20 millimeter infantry fighting vehicle used by mechanized section. Main armament 20 millimeter quick firing gun, firing high explosive incendiary ammunition with a range of 2,000 meters. Approaching is Rattle 60mm. It is the vehicle of the platoon commander, armed with 60mm breech loading mortar with effective range of 1,300 meters. Approaching behind Rattle 60 is Rattle 81mm. Ladies and gentlemen, approaching is Rattle 81mm. The vehicle is mostly operates from the rear to provide indirect fire support to the mechanized battalion. Rattle 81 is armed with 81mm mortar with effective range of 4,856 meters. Rattle 90, anti-tank weapon in a mechanized battalion. Armed with 90 quick-firing gun, use high explosive ammunition with the effective range of 2,000 meters. Casper 106, anti-tank weapon of motorized infantry battalion, armed with the recoilless gun, using high explosive anti-tank ammunition up to the range of 1,200 meters. Following is the mechanized infantry. Following mechanized infantry is the air defense artillery. Rattle command vehicle armed with 12.7mm Browning machine gun with effective range of 1,800 meters, mainly used by the commander.
I was born this side, but now I'm on that side.
Air defense airborne capability of 104 battery, driving geckos mounted with 12.5mm with effective range of 1,800 meters. Geckos can be utilized in all terrain form. It's
Master is so
23mm Bosphor. Provide fire support and air protection to the tank and rearguard when they are moving in the battlefield. It fire targets in the air up to the range of 2,500 meters. It can also be used to fire target on the ground to the range of 3,000 meters. The rate of fire is 800 to 1,000 per barrel per minute. It can be deployed in 3 minutes. Approaching behind 23mm Bosphor is Tutwa. Tutwa is mobile battery fire control post and early warning radar. The system surveillance radar to provide early warning to the air defense artillery troops in the field. It is capable of tracking anti-aircraft in 80 kilometers radius and can be fully operational within 10 minutes of arrival at the deployment area. Moving over to 35mm Mark 5 anti-air gun, main role is to protect critical assets of the commander. It is static and semi-integrated with Tutwa, meaning it is able to communicate with Tutwa to eliminate the target detected by Tutwa. Ladies and gentlemen, the air defense artillery is mainly deployed to eliminate air threats. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the air defense artillery. Behind South African air defense artillery is the South African armor capability. Ladies and gentlemen, South African armor capability. Roygat is the 8-wheeled armed fighting vehicle. It is used to conduct aggressive wide reconnaissance, aggressive search, destroy enemy armor threats, anti-armor operations, combat patrols, raid, and hot pursuit operations. Roygat is armed with 76 quick-firing gun and 7.6mm Browning machine gun with the effective range of 2,000 meters. Roygat has a maximum speed of 120 kilometers per hour. Z-3 anti-tank missile system provide additional anti-tank capability to the Armored Corps and Mechanized Infantry Battalion, armed with 127mm laser guide missile system and 7.6mm Browning machine gun with the effective range of 5,000 meters. For shock effective and firepower, I introduce you to the South African armor tank capability. Oliphant Mark II tank. It protects soldiers in battle against enemy tanks and direct fire. Armed with 105 semi-automatic gun with the effective range and travel with the speed of 58 kilometers per hour. The first generation Oliphant Mark I. Oliphant Mark I possesses high intensity capability to protect soldiers in battle against tanks. It can survive direct hit from 1,000 meters. The difference between the two tanks is that Oliphant Mark II is the improved generation of Oliphant Mark I. Ladies and gentlemen, approaching is the armor recovery vehicle. Its powerful tank of armor personnel carrier chassis, modified for use during combat, for towing or repair of battle damage, and stacked armored fighting vehicles, such as tank and armored personnel carrier. Indirect fire support is provided by South African Army Artillery by means of the following weapons: observer post vehicles, mounted with 60mm breech loading mortar with effective range of 1,000 meters and 12.7 Browning machine gun with effective range of 1,800 meters. The vehicle is mainly used for observation within the battlefield. Ladies and gentlemen, approaching is fire control post, consists of SAML 100, utilized for ballistic calculation for artillery fire. The vehicle deploys with the launchers. Geckos is used for airborne artillery operation, also utilized in support to airborne infantry capability. It is armed with 120mm mortar with effective range of 20 kilometers. Okay. 127mm multiple rocket launcher, which is called Battalier, consists of 40 launchers troop mounted on an armored SAML 100 6x6 truck. Fire up to effective range of 40 kilometers.
stuff, is it?
.155 millimeter G5, also called Leopard. It is towed gun hauser which can be deployed for longer periods in one position. It can deliver fire up to effective range of 40 kilometers and firing 4 rounds per minute. .155 millimeter G5 is used to counter artillery fire and suppress the enemy in battle. .155mm G5 is also called the Rhino. It is a self-propelled gun howitzer. It weighs 60 tons. It fires up to effective range of 40 kilometers. Main transporter. To transport G5 on public roads, the South African Army Artillery uses the abnormal truck called the main transporter to ferry G6 from one point to another. To provide mobility to own force, I introduce you to the South African Army Engineering. Approaching is Husky. It is known as the mobile detection system, detecting mines to create safe lane within the minefield. It is operated by one person. Dumper truck. The machine is known as a tipper. It is normally used to transport material over long distance from where the material is loaded to the working site. Water truck. It is used during the road construction to spray water to make the ground wet so as to have proper compact on the ground. The truck can take up to 23 liters of water. Diesel truck, also known as diesel bunker. It is used to replenish other machines with diesel at the working site during construction and create off-fire breaks. It takes up to 23,000 liters of diesel. Front-end loader. The machine can be used for loading of material into a tipper or transport material over the short distance. Road grader is used to grade the soil and gravel, cutting off dishes, create fire breaks and slope. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the South African Army capability.
Ladies and gentlemen, following the grader is the South African Air Force Tactical Mobile Radar, based at Air Force Base Swartkoop, 142 Squadron, under Air Force Mobile Deployment Wing. The Tactical Mobile Radar represents the tactical aspect of air defense for South African Air Force, which was acquired in the 1990s under Project Sonic. The Tactical Mobile Radar acts as a multiple to improve lower level radar coverage up to 200 kilometers. It serves as an early warning system in support of our land forces as well as coastal point defense for our naval services.
Ladies and gentlemen, right behind the Air Force is the South African Navy's Maritime Reaction Squadron small boats. First one up is the riverine boat, also known as the Crocodile, used in riverine operation and can be used in seawater. It was built here in South Africa. It has a length of 12 meters, weighs 10 tons, carries a 12-man armed team of Marines with 6 crewmen. Main armament 12.7 Browning in front, and is mounted at the back with 2 times S77 LMGs, speed up to 35 knots. Right behind it is the Namakura, also mounted with the 12.7 millimeter Browning in front and the S77 at the back. Crew of 5, coxswain and an assistant coxswain, can go up to speed of 30 knots. Right behind it is the boarding boat, also known as the Bravo boats, used in anti-piracy for boarding operations, launched from mothership, either the frigates or the support vessels, has a length of 9 meters, weighs 5 tons, and carries a complement of 6 Marines with a crew of 4. Armament is 1 times S77. Right behind it, you have the Navy diving Zurip 7.1 meter, complement of 8 divers, including the coxswain, used for op corona and for bomb disposal and underwater security.
Approaching the podium are the assets of the South African Military Health Service, the 3 FESI command vehicles. The main aim of these assets is to use them for command and control purposes during medical evacuations and during combat. Right after these 3 command and FESI vehicles are the 2 geckos, green in color, and we use these particular assets and capabilities as patient or casualty transport capabilities during combat. As you can see, they are fitted with 2 stretchers accordingly to enable them to transport patients and casualties. There are some dummies there simulating casualties. Right after these geckos, ladies and gentlemen, is the vintage ambulance dating back to 1950 of the Ford brand. It has been rendered serviceable as a result of Optusano, the binational partnership between SANDF and Cuban friendly forces, whose essence is to transfer mechanical skills, among others, to our young members. That is our vintage ambulance. After the vintage ambulance are our 2 soft skin ambulances, white in color, used obviously as patient transport capabilities of the South African Military Health Service from the surgical post to level 2. After the soft skin ambulances are the SAML 20 ambulances. They are utilized primarily to support the fighting forces and transport the injured from the battlefield to the level 1 medical post. After the SAML 20 ambulances are your FESI ambulances. You can all see they are marked with the Red Cross, which identifies them as health capabilities and never to be treated as military targets in combat. Okay. We also have the level 1 medical post, containerized on Ro-Ro trucks, consists of minor ailment component for daily patient consultation, triage component for patient sifting and triaging, resuscitation component for managing all trauma medical cases, and surgical component for life-saving surgical procedures. Then we have our 2 Casper ambulances. Obviously they are armored ambulances, white in color, Red Cross. They are used during United Nations missions in peace support role. Ladies and gentlemen, behind the 2 Casper ambulances is a protection vehicle to render these particular healthcare capabilities safe. And then that concludes the display of our military health capabilities. Angels of mercy, health warriors serving the brave. You have to be brave yourself to support the brave. I thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the mechanized columns displaying the various capabilities from the South African National Defence Force. Ladies and gentlemen, approaching is the National Ceremonial Guard for final compliments. You're reminded to stand on the playing of the national anthem. Military members are requested to salute. Ladies and gentlemen, you may be seated, and please remain seated until the Guard of Honor has marched off. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the parade. Invited guests are reminded of the various functions which will be held on completion of the parade. All the members with blue tags to please come in front of the podium, as there will be buses to usher you to the venue. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attendance and enjoy the rest of your day.